All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Put 10 in here?
10, and you don't come out till you die. And you eat him, he hoops in.
Oh my God.
Today is Friday, March 11, 2022. Coming up next, Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Jussie Smollett spent his first night of the 150-day sentence in the Cook County Jail last night. We have a legal panel to dissect the sentence, the judge's statements during yesterday's hearing, plus two of his siblings will also join us. A judge approves a revised plan to fix the NFL's concussion program. The wife of a former defensive tackle, Leonard, she has been fighting against the NFL concussion payout protocol. She'll tell us if this amendment is going to help. In our Education Matters segment, Dr. Raven, the Science Maven, has a unique way of teaching and closing the gender gap in STEM. Also, we'll talk about the Department of Health and Human Services responding to Congressman Hank Johnson's letter regarding Black-owned advertising. Plus, HBCUs. Why do folks keep lying about the amount of money that was promised to HBCUs? I will unpack it again for all the folks in the back who didn't hear us the first, the second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth time. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on Go Roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
It's been almost 24 hours since Jussie Smollett was sentenced to 30 months probation, including 150 days in a Cook County jail. There's been lots of conversation, lots of discussion about what took place yesterday in a Chicago courtroom. This is what the reaction of Jussie after the judge handed down the sentence.
I'm fashioning the following sentence, and here's your sentence. I'm sentencing you to 30 months felony probation, and the probation is going to be to this court. You're going to be allowed to travel wherever you want. You do not have to live in the state of Illinois. You will pay restitution to the city of Chicago in the amount of $120,106. You are fined $25,000, which is the maximum fine. And you will spend the first 150 days of your sentence in the Cook County Jail. And that will start today, right here, right now.
I am not suicidal.
Okay?
I am not suicidal. I am innocent, and I am not suicidal. If I did this, then it means that I stuck my fist in the fears of Black Americans in this country for over 400 years and the fears of the LGBTQ community. Your Honor, I respect you and I respect the jury, but I did not do this. And I am not suicidal. And if anything happens to me when I go in there, I did not do it to myself. And you must all know that. I respect you, Your Honor. I respect your decision. Jail time. I am not suicidal.
Okay.
I am not suicidal. I am not suicidal, and I am innocent. I could have said that I was guilty a long time ago.
Smollett was convicted in December on 5 counts of felony disorderly conduct and making false reports to police. That was a low-level felony. Again, he told police that 2 men attacked him in 2019 and put a noose around his neck while shouting racial and homophobic slurs. His defense team asked for leniency in court Thursday, citing Smollett's lack of a criminal record as well as his activism. The judge sided with prosecutors who said the actor lied on the witness stand during his trial. I want to talk right now to a couple of his brothers. Joining us right now is JoJo and Jussie Smollett, both in Chicago. Gentlemen, glad to have you here. First of all, have you communicated with your brother in the last 24 hours? If so, how's he doing?
Yeah, we've had a chance to speak with him a little bit, and you know he's strong. He knows what's up against him. We've known what's been up against us for the last 3 years. They should have never gotten this far, and we're all very angry. He's angry, but he's very strong, and he knows that he needs to stay focused and do what he needs to do.
He walked out of that courtroom saying that if I wanted to lie or if this actually didn't happen, I would have said so. He made it clear that what he has said from the beginning did indeed happen, that he did not make up this incident.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, it makes complete sense. I mean, at this point, he's spent tons of money on legal expenses defending his name. He's had the media completely just rip his name and his brand and everything he's worked for his entire life right from under him. It would be a lot easier if he did do this to just admit it and then move on with his life, move on and continue his craft and let the work speak for itself. But he didn't do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was convicted of a very low-level felony. It would have been easier for him to just take the L and say, oh, well, you know, I'm pleading to something that really doesn't mean much, you know, and take the, but he didn't do it. You know, he had the integrity to fight and to clear his name. You know, if you review the transcripts in this case, you are literally looking at a judge and a prosecution that you don't necessarily find a distinction between. There's a point in time where you're just sometimes sitting back, are they part of the same law firm? Yeah. The judge and the prosecution. And to begin with, you know, I understand the prosecutors and the judges, they have their individual responsibilities and their jobs to pursue. And I think, though, that if you look at the amount of so-called evidence, they're like, oh, a plethora of evidence, oh, a lot of evidence, overwhelming evidence. I'm like, look, I'm not just saying this because I am his brother, but what evidence? What evidence? Can someone describe to me, still to this day, what evidence? They showed us hours upon hours of Jussie supposedly circling around the city of Chicago, driving in his vehicle. Never got out of the vehicle. They say, oh, this is where they practice the dry run. Well, those of us that grew up in LA, you know, you live around actors and you hear about rehearsals and dry runs. They never got out of the car. You never see them get out of the car and participate in an actual dry run. The idea that the check was $3,500, which is standard, you know, amount that you pay to two guys who are, you know, you are confident are pretty good personal trainers. All right, these two individuals say that he was paying this for them to go participate in a crime. For a man, one of the brothers actually has a bachelor's in microbiology. The other has a master's degree in finance. So answer for me why in Chicago, with a master's in finance and a bachelor's in microbiology, the only employment opportunity you have available is to split $3,500 while risking your freedom. But no one questions that. No one just like, oh, Jussie's ridiculous. Why would he pay $3,500? And if you're going to commit a crime, All right. Those of us who have been around the streets enough know no one's going to commit a crime being paid only $3,500.
But how do you respond?
Right?
There's so many. But how do you respond to this? There's so many people. I mean, I have seen the social media reaction. I can tell you what people have said to me personally. What I've heard. I lived 6 years in Chicago. There are so many people who are like, "Yo, he did it. He's guilty." And I mean, the number of people, even African American people, were calling in yesterday. People I've seen commenting saying, "No, he needs to pay for this." How do you deal with that when so many people, black, white, doesn't matter, are against your brother and they say he did it?
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, the first thing that people need to remember is Anthony Moore is your reasonable doubt. Anthony Moore is your reasonable doubt. Anthony Moore is your reasonable doubt. Anthony Moore saw white folks running with a noose in their back pocket, and he was told to essentially change the story by the prosecution. Anthony Moore is your reasonable doubt. And it's really a shame that the media has really spun this in a way. I mean, if you go back to 2019 and you study the way the media spun this, it's not a surprise that folks have bought into this. Because if you look at it at face value, it's I wouldn't say it's easy to believe, but it's if you're not critically thinking, which a lot of folks aren't in this situation, it's just being frank. If you're not critically thinking, if you're not looking at the records, if you're not understanding. One of the jurors was quoted in an article saying they don't understand why Jussie would do this. That's reasonable doubt. There is no reason why he would do this. There's literally not one piece of concrete evidence. There's not one piece of text message. There's not a phone call. There's nothing directly linking Jussie to saying, I want you to plan an attack on me.
Nothing.
There's not even anything. There's not even a zoom in on a camera of showing them talking about something that looks like they're talking about an attack.
If you listen to the media representation, all right, you would be convinced, not having seen the evidence or lack of evidence, you would be convinced that they have this smoking gun somewhere, all right, that just proves beyond a reasonable doubt. There is nothing that is verifiable. You have no recordings. You have no written. They are literally, this is a he said, she said case.
Got it.
They made it out to be, we have all this evidence. They have no recordings, no video, audio, no written evidence of anything. It is just the testimony of two individuals that the police department got to say, all right, and I don't know why they did this, but the police department at the 47th hour of interrogation, which only allowed 48 hours to hold someone and interrogate them in Chicago, in Cook County, they in the 47th hour decided that this was their story and they were going to stick to it. I don't know the details behind it. I don't know what caused it, but I do know that in this nation that we live in, our system, of democracy is not only dependent upon who we elect to president. It's also individual cases and decisions like this where you see things fall apart. You know, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm a layman.
Well, I trust me. I got 3 lawyers waiting on my legal panel to talk about the legal aspect.
Yeah. But for me, and this is one thing that it's subject to interpretation, I'm sure. But the Sixth Amendment guarantees for swift trial, and the fact that I sat there in front of the judge yesterday and pleaded with him to provide leniency to my brother 3 years after the crime, the low-level crime that he's alleged to have committed, when I saw ABA, the American Bar Association, suggestion that people who are not detained should be from indictment to sentencing only 180 days. It's been 1,100 days for Jussie, all right? And one of the reasons I'm bringing this up is because the problem with not having a speedy and swift trial, that you build up this momentum and this mob mentality in the community that they get to put things out before they even go to court. So you poison the pool of potential jurors.
Got it.
There is no way you could tell me that in 2 months ago, when they picked a jury, that almost 3 years after this case, large celebrity here on a big TV show that was filmed in Chicago, no one heard about that case that was on that jury? You're going to tell me that jury had not been already kind of purged with this perception
well, first
of what had really happened.
Keep in mind, there were people who also said they were not aware of the OJ case, and so that did happen. I do want to ask just a couple of more questions before I go to my legal panel, and that is, a lot of people have talked about that. The judge even alluded to this. His career is over. He's destroyed it. So many of you, obviously, in your family are in the entertainment business. Y'all were standing by his side. Speak to that in terms of this notion that there's nowhere for him to go. Forget it. That's it. It's all over.
His career is not over. It is far from over. His career is not over, and folks will the test of time will just prove that. You know, our brother is an unbelievably talented individual. He's unbelievably smart. He's unbelievably creative, and ultimately, he's just going to focus on the work at this point. Our society at large has turned his back on him, and he just needs to focus on the work. And he's talented. He will be fine in the long run. The judge should be absolutely ashamed of himself of how he chastised our brother. He said he was the butt of comedians' jokes. He literally went on it had to be at least a 15-minute spree of just completely chastising him, saying that he was arrogant, he was narcissistic. It's just ridiculous. It's like, what? This is not what judges are supposed to do. You are not some parent figure to lecture our brother on what he did. Give him the sentence and let it be over with.
He said things that 15-year-olds on social media online know not to say to shame people nowadays. All right. And, you know, one other thing that I'd like to say is there's multiple parts to this. Okay. There's the, you know, whether or not you think Jussie committed a crime or not, you have to admit that this crime that he's being alleged to have committed is not even considered a felony in most states in America. Yet he's standing behind bars for 150 days when there are people in this country that advocated, rooted for, especially right-wing extremists, who rooted for Jussie because of the demographics that he represents, to go to prison, yet they claim that they could understand the legal technicalities that acquitted Kyle Rittenhouse when he's on video footage shooting 2 American protesters and he gets no jail time, not even a day. All right, but they understood the legal technicalities for that. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because when we're sentencing people and convicting people, and we're allowing our legal system to become a weapon to be used to criminalize people that are part of marginalized groups, we have to think twice about it. So it doesn't matter to me if a lot of black and brown people, a lot of people in the urban inner cities that understand the corruption and the brutality and the things that go on in the inner cities and are still set on believing the police, what they released to the press and what the press ran with before Jussie even got a chance to argue in his own favor, that's fine. If you want to go that route and you want to believe everything you were told and you don't believe what Jussie says, I get it. All right, you think he's guilty, but at least have the audacity and the strength to admit that in this day and time, when we are even seeing Republicans supporting criminal justice reform, that we should definitely be standing for criminal justice reform, definitely in the way of not allowing this massive incarceration. We incarcerate more nonviolent criminals in America than anywhere else in the world, and we call ourselves the freest land on earth. That is a discrepancy that we have to correct. And if you are 100% believing that Jussie's guilty, there's no reason that you should believe that he should be getting jail time right now.
Joe and Jussie Smollett, gentlemen, I appreciate you joining us on the show and sharing your thoughts and perspective.
Thanks for having us. And I just want to say, man, I'm not easily starstruck, but it's been an honor to be here with you today. I really respect you and appreciate you.
I appreciate it. Thank you so very much, gentlemen. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, man. All right.
Folks, Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx released columns in the Chicago Sun-Times and the Chicago Tribune saying this: at its best, our justice system should make people safer, hold accountable those who seek to harm others, and earn the trust of the citizenry. At its worst, the system can be easily manipulated in furtherance of thinly veiled political agendas. On Thursday, the damaging, costly, and disingenuous criminal prosecution of Jussie Smollett came to an end as Cook County State's Attorney. It pains me deeply to say that in this particular case, our justice system failed. Chicagoans deserve to know how and why it can and likely will happen again across the country. I want to bring in my legal panel right now to talk about that and other issues as well. Joining us right now is the state's attorney in Prince George's County, Aisha Braveboy. Glad to have you back on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Good to see you. Roderick Bridges, defense attorney from Decatur, Georgia. Roderick, glad to have you as well. And of course, Matt Manning, as part of our regular panel on Fridays, is an attorney as well. but something, Aisha, I want to start with you. There was something else that was stated in that letter from Kim Foxx, where she was very particular in terms of what she called this mob mentality, and also how they are doing this against progressive district attorneys, against black women. She named several as well. This special prosecutor in this case did a report criticizing her office, saying they abused their discretion, yet she said prosecutors are given wide discretion for a reason. Initially, charges were dropped. He got 15 hours of community service, $10,000 fine. She said nearly all of these cases, they don't go to trial. She said, but it was mob mentality that actually led to this event, him going to trial, millions being spent, and him being sentenced yesterday. Just your thoughts.
You know, I agree very much with my colleague, Kim Foxx, in that I think in this case, you're talking about what amounts in my state to a misdemeanor. So to spend hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to prosecute a low-level crime seems a little unbalanced because like Chicago here in Maryland and other places across the country, what we've seen is a rise in violent crime. And so to place so many resources and give such attention to a misdemeanor or a low-level felony offense seems somewhat out of touch with what reality is in the courtrooms every day. That every single day we divert and dismiss low-level crimes. It is not just progressive prosecutors. A lot of prosecutors across the country, whether they're considered moderate or even conservative, in cases where you're talking about someone who is not, does not have a huge history of committing offenses and has committed a relatively low-level offense, typically that person is given an opportunity to have a second chance. So whether it's diversion or we place it on the step docket with certain conditions like community service, like paying restitution, those are things that are typical in our justice system, and that is the discretion that all prosecutors have and that we exercise every single day.
Roderick, it is interesting when you look at the reaction. Again, you see what Kim Foxx had to say in those letters there. Did this feel like mob justice? Did this feel like the public say, oh, no, we're going to get our 10 pounds of flesh. He is going to pay.
I don't think it was mob so much as far as certain individuals making a decision that when Ms. Foxx used her discretion to actually reduce this matter to a misdemeanor or just dismiss it pre-trial, allowing Mr. Jussie to take a plea in a sense and dismiss the charges, I think they were dissatisfied with the result. We would count on district attorneys to utilize their discretion to dispose of many of these cases. Without that discretion, every time if a judge is dissatisfied with the results, we would see ourselves with a backlog of cases that we cannot handle. So it's necessary for the district attorneys and state attorneys to utilize their discretion to dispose of these cases. And it's important to our justice system to keep it rolling and process these cases. Most people in the community, in the legal community, would say that this was at best a misdemeanor case. And I think in the end, when you look at the judge's sentence, he actually thought it was a misdemeanor case too. Ms. Jussie was facing up to almost 15 years, yet he sentenced him on the very, very low end, similar to what he could have done if this was tried as a misdemeanor case. And I agree with my colleague that this was a total waste of resources, considering the crime problem we have in Chicago and the issues that are going on in Chicago. So I have to agree with Ms. Foxx in the manner it was used. And in the necessary of our judicial system to allow that the criminal justice system must move forward and allow the district attorney to utilize their discretion in these matters to allow the system to continue to grow and prosper and serve everyone, not just those individuals who have a vested interest in what they see as justice and not justice for all.
But Matt, I feel what Kim Foxx is talking about. You had the superintendent on television going off on her. You had the mayor going off on her. You had newspapers. You had all of this. You have a judge who appoints a special prosecutor to look at. See, again, the judge appointed a special prosecutor to look into her office as to how they made the decision. He's a former U.S. assistant attorney. He then does a report ripping her office and then files charges against Smollett.
This was unprecedented. Not only did all of that happen, what's especially strange is that appointment for the special prosecutor only came after a retired judge filed a petition asking the court to appoint a special prosecutor. What I think is so insidious here, not only what happened to Jussie Smollett in terms of the sentencing, which is draconian if you consider that people get sentenced in cases like this all the time where they not only don't have to do jail time, but they just pay a fine or do community service for matters such as these. The bigger issue is I don't even know how you can file a petition asking a court to appoint a special prosecutor if you have no dog in the hunt. Prosecutors have wide discretion. I've been the first assistant for a DA's office, and it's absurd that a DA's office would choose to dismiss a charge and somebody would be unhappy about that because of Jussie Smollett's standing and decide that they want to file a petition and have a special prosecutor. That divests Kim Foxx of her right as the elected official there to make discretionary decisions, or her office. So this is problematic beyond Jussie Smollett, because this says if you're a black woman who's duly elected to office, we're not going to let you make the decisions that we elected you to office to make.
The thing, Aisha, that jumps out, the defense attorneys yesterday, when they, before the sentencing, they said, how is this not double jeopardy? How do you, so you have a prosecutor, and again, I just want to understand how a prosecutor thinks here. A prosecutor decides to dismiss charges. They then do a deal. They called it essentially an immunity agreement. He takes the community service and the fine, so case is adjudicated. Then they're able to come back and go, oh, forget that. We're going to ignore that one, and now we're going to sit here and now charge you and now convict you. Just want to get the legal panel's thoughts. Do you believe a strong, my attorney yesterday, Candace Kelly, was on the show, a legal analyst, she said she believes they have a strong appeal in that, wait a minute, you got a second bite at the apple after it was already adjudicated? Your thoughts, Aisha first.
You know, I was really surprised that this case was ever tried after the prosecutor and the prosecutor's office made a deal with the defendant. And as far as I understood, the defendant was either in the process or had satisfied the terms of the conditions that were placed on him. So I don't know what happens in Illinois. I could tell you that that is completely something that would not happen here in Maryland. So I'm not really sure, but I think double jeopardy really attaches when someone gives up certain rights, when they make certain agreements in our justice system. I mean, that's why we have, plea deals. That's why we have diversion and other types of agreements, because we recognize that people have rights that they end up giving up to satisfy the prosecutor's office or the state. So I am very unclear about why double jeopardy did not attach in this case. And I think it is something that should be appealed, and this really should go all the way up to the Supreme Court, because this is the very basis of our justice system. When someone has been adjudicated within our system, whether it ends up in a plea deal or a dismissal or whatever it is, then that's it. To me, I don't understand Illinois and how this process actually got to where we are now.
So, Roger, how would you feel if you were the defense attorney for your client and charges get dropped, you agree to community service, you all of a sudden have to pay a fine, then next thing you know, a few months later, you get notified, oh, we're charging your client. What would your response be?
How difficult would that be for criminal defense attorney to get our clients to believe us and have integrity in our representation? Imagine us telling a client that we have worked out a deal for you, a resolution to your case that sees you doing no jail time, a resolution to your case that does not put a criminal record on you, and a deal that only requires you to pay a fine and do community service. That is a agreement. It's similar to every agreement that we make around the country. And it's done all the time. It's nothing new. In this situation, it wasn't new. It was something that's done everywhere. In fact, in most jurisdictions, if you have a bond and you decide you don't want to go to court, you can simply not show up and allow that bond to be your penalty for that case in some misdemeanor cases. So it's not uncommon. What happened here is that a judge made a decision that he wanted to be the judge and the prosecutor because he wanted to impede on Mrs. Fox's territory and actually reduce her discretion in allowing this resolution. I think I have to agree with my colleague that indeed there may be a double jeopardy violation. The only problem we have is there's no written agreement. There is no written entering in a plea or resolution to the case. And
actually, look. You. Granted, the Supreme Court did not. The Supreme Court rejected the appeal of the case we're dealing with Bill Cosby. And what did the district attorney there say? The DA complained that there was no written agreement between the DA's office and Bill Cosby, but the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court ruled that because the DA said there was an agreement, and that's what led him to give that deposition, therefore, even that verbal agreement stands, and that's why Bill Cosby was released from prison.
And that was going to be my second point. If Ms. Fox is willing to stand by her deal, they can utilize that in an appeal to show that.
I think based upon these two columns that she dropped in the newspapers, she's standing by her deal.
Yes, exactly. And that should be the rest. The only problem is that in the appeal process, it takes some time. That means Jussie will serve close to probably the entire time unless the judge grants him a bail during the appeal. So in this situation, he'll be punished even though later the appeal court would turn the matter over.
Matt, here's the thing. This is the last question that jumps out, and I'm sitting here as I'm thinking about it. So essentially, what we saw here is that somebody can get pissed. Somebody, take another case. Somebody could say, you know what? I'm pissed at the DA. I don't like the deal y'all struck. So let's get a judge to appoint a special prosecutor, and we're going to do a do-over. That's literally the door that has been opened by this case.
That's correct. And what is strange about this is everyone understood that Kim Fox's office may have used the terminology the wrong way, but that they weren't saying essentially they needed to recuse themselves. So for somebody who's not at all involved to file a petition, I mean, I had to get to the books, Roland, because I've literally never seen anything like this. I mean, and I've prosecuted many cases and disposed of many cases through diversion agreements. And the idea that somebody's angry about a deal that I made when I had the authority of the state of Texas behind me to do so and can file a petition, and then a judge who doesn't like the defendant or for whatever reason thinks that they should go and appoint a special prosecutor can do that, that's terrifying. I mean, for people like Ms. Braveboy here who have been elected to their office, the idea that a judge could just take away her discretion to make any deal she thinks is appropriate is scary. And what we see around the country is that this is happening to Black and potentially, I mean, especially reform-minded prosecutors who police unions are angry with and who don't like that they're doing justice the way they see fit and have been duly elected to do so. So that's what I think is really scary here, because if this becomes a precedent, this could be something we see across the country, and that should not stand. If you're duly elected to office, you get to make the decisions.
Aisha Braveboy, I appreciate you joining us and sharing your expertise on our panel. Also, Roderick Bridges, out of Decatur, Georgia. Both of you, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
I want to bring in our other panelists right now. Crystal Knight, she's a Democratic strategist. Matt Steele is with us. Crystal, you've been, sorry? Okay, actually, I can't understand what your control room is telling me. Okay, can't make it out. Why don't y'all type it into the ear? Because literally, I can't understand what you're saying to me right now. Let's do this here. I'm going to go to a quick break, then I'll come right back on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
gonna come out till you die. And you eat him, you hoop him.
Oh my God.
So what?
All right, folks, our Ghana, part 2 of our 10-part Ghana docuseries will be airing right after tonight's episode of Roland Martin Unfiltered. You do not want to miss that. It is a powerful episode, and trust me, you will absolutely enjoy that. Let's continue our conversation talking about this Jussie Smollett case with our panel. Matt Manning is still with us. Crystal Knight, she's a Democratic strategist. She joins us as well. And Michael M. Hotep, host of the African History Network. Thank you so very much. Crystal, you listen to that legal panel here. You have folks on the right who have been using this to be highly critical of Democrats who stood initially with Jussie Smollett. You have folks like Buck Sexton who blasted President Biden and Vice President Harris, saying, "Oh, now they don't have anything to say about this here." Just your thoughts on how folks are going to try to tie this to Democrats because Jussie Smollett was a Democratic supporter.
Yeah, I think that this case has been difficult from day one. You know, here in America, what we always say is that you're innocent until proven guilty. And so folks really wanted to believe Jussie, and folks wanted to believe that the details surrounding the case were true based upon what he, had reported. And I think what we saw are, we have to remember in 2019, this was before the 2020 election. So we're, fighting in a very contentious election with former President Donald Trump, meaning the Democratic Party was. And so anything that the party could do to show unity, if you will, not only with Black Americans, which, have proven to be a solid base of support for the Democrats, but also with LGBTQ Americans who also are a big voting bloc in this country. I think we saw people rush and, stand in solidarity with the facts based upon what Jussie had stated. I think, things that have been uncovered and even the ruling yesterday has shown some inconsistencies at best. He is still maintaining his innocence, and even according to his brothers who appeared on the show earlier tonight, they're also maintaining his innocence. And ultimately, the court of public opinion had a long runway to really decide and make, their own case about what they believe to be true. And what we should not expect to see any of these political pundits or anyone that holds political office to speak up based upon what has happened, because it really has shown that they were quick to rush to judgment about, again, what the facts were based upon what Jussie initially stated. And so it's challenging when you put yourself out there, but I don't think anyone would disagree with standing up against a hate crime. That's ultimately what we saw politicians do, and that is the right thing to do. Now, if it turns out that it's untrue, you still acted in good faith, and I don't think people will penalize folks for trying to do the right thing.
Michael, the thing that's, again, interesting, it was very interesting to see that letter that Kim Foxx dropped, stating her position. And frankly, she should. I mean, that was an assault on her office, their integrity, and what she was elected to do by the voters of Cook County and re-elected.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And once again, Roland, we've seen an attack on progressive prosecutors across the country. I actually read the letter that Kim Foxx wrote that's in the Chicago Sun-Times, and we have seen attacks, whether it's in St. Louis, whether it's Marilyn Mosby in Baltimore, et cetera. But as Kim Foxx lays out in this letter, prosecutors have a lot of discretion that they can utilize, number one. Number two, there are hundreds of cases where you have very low-level felonies that, people pay a fine, they do community service. This was, Jussie had forfeited his $10,000 bond. He was going to do 2 days community service, and this was going to be over with. But it seemed like the police department and maybe some higher ups in Chicago didn't want to let this go. Then Superintendent Eddie Johnson went on Good Morning America, and now I think that was after Jussie Smollett went on Good Morning America. Jussie Smollett did go on Good Morning America as well. But if you sit back and say you don't live in Chicago, you sit back and you look at this, you say, wait a second, this is all over somebody who allegedly set up a hoax on himself. It's not like he killed somebody, okay? Because I watched your broadcast live yesterday, Roland, with the Judge James Lynn, when he's giving his sentencing. And after he went on 25, 30 minutes, I was like, did I miss the sentencing? And then he kept going. And if you compare that to Judge Regina Chu in sentencing Kim Potter, Judge Regina Chu had more sympathy for Kim Potter, who killed Daunte Wright and did not provide any medical assistance for Daunte Wright, and he dies, than Judge James Lynn had for Jussie Smollett. So it seemed like it was personal. It seemed like there was excessive, but also Judge James Lynn is an elected official, and he can be voted out of office next time he's up for re-election.
It certainly has been very interesting looking at the reaction here and the responses. So I have, look, we will see what is next. Of course, as you heard from Jussie's brothers, they are they talked to him. He is in jail. He will be in Cook County Jail for the next 5 months. But I'm sure this will not be the last we hear of this case as well. All right, folks, I want to turn to our next story, and that is we told you early Monday, Congressman Hank Johnson, he led the signing of a letter signed by 38 of the 56 members of the Congressional Black Caucus to President Joe Biden as related to the issue of advertising for Black-owned media. Highly critical of federal government, the resources that have been spent towards Black-owned media. Today, the Department of Health and Human Services, they released a letter that they sent to him. He sent this letter to me as well. And what's interesting about this letter here is that they detail just how much great that they actually did. They said from day one of the Biden-Harris administration through April 30th, 2022, the HHS COVID-19 PEC is projected to spend about 18%, approximately $65 million, of its total paid media budget targeting Black audiences. This means that the total spend for this single federal campaign is well beyond parity for the Black community, which makes up approximately 13% of the U.S. population. Now, keep in mind, Black folks are 13% of those impacted by COVID. Of the entire paid media budget, more than 5.5%, approximately $20 million, was spent on Black-owned and operated media, e.g., TV One, the National Newspaper Publishers Association, National Association of Black-owned Broadcasters, and Oprah Winfrey Network. The Government Accountability Office report mentioned in your letter cited 1.02% as a level of investment for advertising of Black-owned, give me 1 second, jump to the next page here, of Black-owned, okay, here we go. Let me go back down here. Black-owned operated businesses by the federal government. But in their letter, they said that, their campaign, they spent additional $45 million, or 12.5%, with Black targeted media, BET, The Breakfast Club, and Fox Soul. Quote, That is, media that has extensive black reach but isn't black owned or operated. In other words, approximately 30% of the total amount of paid media spent on targeting black audiences was spent on black-owned and operated media. In order to maximize impact in the black community, we recognize the importance of investing in both black-owned and operated media and black-targeted media. Okay, let's unpack this. First of all, folks, OWN, the Oprah Winfrey Network, is not black-owned. It is not black-owned. Discovery owns 95% of OWN. Oprah, it used to be 50-50. She sold 45% back to Discovery. She retains 5%. Discovery stockholders just yesterday approved their merger with Warner Media. Who owns Warner Media? AT&T. AT&T will own 71% of the combined company. That means that any COVID money that's going to OWN is going to AT&T. Now, I am going to be requesting from HHS an actual breakdown of that $20 million. Because what I want to know is, what is the total amount of money spent on paid media? And how much of that money goes to black-owned media? Now, it's interesting how they make this point about how they spend $45 million with black-targeted media. They mentioned the Breakfast Club, that's iHeartRadio, Fox Soul, Fox, BET, Viacom, CBS. Now, they include Fox Soul as saying they have an extensive black reach. I don't think so. And I've been on. I think we have a larger reach here at Roland Martin Unfiltered. And I know we receive 0. The thing that's interesting here is they say the HHS COVID-19 PEC is not only making significant investments in black-owned and operated media, but also hired a black-owned and operated agency, Creative Marketing Resources, to oversee the creative development, targeting, and media buying of the advertising that targets black audiences. Creative Marketing Resources' experience and expertise in this space has helped HHS develop culturally resonant creative products and make strategic media buys to maximize our impact in the black community. Okay. I called first of all, I'm just trying to, I'm gonna do something right here. Creative Marketing Resource. So I'm just gonna look up something right here. Creative Marketing Resource. Because I've never heard of them. So CMR, let's see who they are. All about CMR. It says their total market, blah, 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 blah. I'm trying to figure out who are they? I've never heard of them. I'm going to reach out to some other black-owned ad agencies to ask them if they are familiar with creative. And apparently they're based out of Milwaukee and they have an office that's in Chicago. But here's the point that I'm making on here. HHS is one department. What about the rest of them? That really is the point we're making here, Michael. The federal government spends $1 billion annually on advertising. What's the total spend? We know, based upon the GAO report commissioned by Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton 4 years ago, that over a 5-year period, $5 billion was spent by the federal government. Black-owned media got $51 million of the $5 billion. That's right. 1%.
Mm-hmm. You know, the way they phrase that, and I have a background in marketing also, so I understand how racist the advertising agencies are and the whole industry. All right, so the way they phrase that, 30% black-owned and targeted media, you have a bigger reach, I think, than Fox Soul TV. I've been on Fox Soul twice. Okay, if you go, and you have a bigger reach than even the Black News Channel. If you go, I'm on the Black News Channel's YouTube channel every day. Go look and see how many views their videos get. And this is not a knock against the Black News Channel, but go look and see how many views their YouTube videos get, and then look at yours. Okay? Go look at Fox Soul TV. Go to their YouTube channel and look and see how many views their videos get on average, and then look at yours. So when they say 30% goes to Black-owned and targeted, but then they name the Breakfast Club owned by iHeartRadio, Fox Soul, that's Rupert Murdoch, who owns the Fox News Network. Okay? So, you know, this is like a 3-card Monte game or something like that, man. So we have to really be persistent with this and demand our fair share, especially when we talk about COVID-19 dollars, because we disproportionately indexed in getting COVID-19 as well. And the bulk of that money needs to go to African-American owned media outlets, not something owned by iHeartRadio or something owned by AT&T. They get enough money as it is.
So here's what I thought was interesting, Crystal. They talked about CMR leading this effort. We never heard from CMR.
Mm-hmm.
My advertising arm didn't even present to CMR. We presented to Forrest Marsh. So I'm trying to understand, was CMR negotiating the ad buys? If so, you might want to tell us.
Yeah, well, I think, you know, we don't know what the procurement process is for these government agencies, you know, these federal agencies rather, and what that process looked like. And clearly, you know, it does not appear that there was a public transparency. And maybe that's something that's standard within the federal government. I don't pretend to be.
And let me also add this, Crystal. We communicated directly with members of the White House COVID task force and the White House, and no one ever told us to reach out to CMR about ad dollars.
Right, because it could have already been earmarked for this creative agency. I think the thing too that I want to highlight is that we're talking about a set aside for COVID-19 money. But you know what you brought up at the beginning of the segment was, what about the other agencies? And what about money that's spent outside of COVID, pre-pandemic and even post-pandemic, even though we're not in the post-pandemic phase yet? And so when we're thinking about, yes, you know, Black agencies are getting money because, like, quote unquote, special money because of COVID-19, what about the others? What about the other agencies that should spend with minority-owned businesses, Black businesses? Is there a set aside? Is there a requirement, you know, that allows agencies that procure over a certain dollar amount to spend with minority-owned companies? And that's the real question. That's another question that we should be having, you know, as we're having this discussion about how the federal government spends money. What does their procurement, you know, process look like? What does the scale look like as well? And then who's holding them accountable? Who is the checks and balances for procurement at the federal level?
Matt, see the thing, Matt, is, you know, HHS is laying all of these things out and how well they did. I still want specific numbers. I want to know what was the total number of ad dollars that was part of this paid media campaign. Because one of the things that they did in their letter, they talked about all of these things that they did going out there. And what they did is they did stuff with, so check this out. They said they invested in Black-owned, operated, targeted media, speak for themselves, paid media, earned media, social media, paid partnerships, community events, testimonials, and the deployment of more than 17,000 trusted messengers, physicians, barbers, and faith leaders in communities nationwide. The HHS COVID-19 PEC has closed the disparity gap in vaccination rates. They did stuff with Black men, paid national partners, Black Men Engage. They did stuff with Jack and Jill of America, the National Medical Association, Cobb Institute, Women Missionary Society Foundation, the Links, Black Women's Agenda, National Black Nurses Association. The Roundtable in Jacksonville is one of approximately 50 community events the HHS COVID-19 PEC has held with Black communities across the country. And then they talk about all these interviews that they did with Fauci and others. But guess what? I remember them coming to us to interview Fauci. We did. The White House kept sending us, and we interviewed Cameron Webb. We interviewed the sister who was the co-chair of the task force. Interviewed all of them. But it's very interesting how we never were told where to find the money. But they sure knew how to find us for free media.
Right. I think that's right. And I think Crystal and Michael have hit some of the seminal questions on the head. But what's really interesting about this letter is when they think the number is big and advantageous for them to show, they give it to you. When they don't give it to you. Case in point, I think it would be important to know the size of that contract for creative marketing resources, because I wouldn't put it past them to have a contract that's small, but for them to trot it out when they need to defend themselves in terms of the procurement that Crystal talked about and investment in Black-owned media. And if you notice, they did a job of trying to combine Black-owned media and Black-targeted media so the number looks larger. I don't know much about marketing, but just reading it on its face, it's very clear that they don't want to tell you the actual extent of that, because that would probably show how small that investment actually has been. So I think both of my colleagues have asked the appropriate questions, and I would want to know not only where the money comes from and who it goes to, but precisely how much is going to those people, because we know they do that. They say, oh, we gave them money, but we know it's tiny compared to what they could have given and should have given.
Yeah, so I could guarantee you Melanie Ann Igorin, who's Assistant Secretary for Legislation, trust me, she'll be hearing from us on Monday because we have some additional questions. All right, folks, going to a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the NFL's concussion program, the changes made where they got rid of really a racist system. We will explain when we come back on Roland Martin Unfiltered, the Black Star Network. Don't forget to support us in what we do. You can get the download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV, and also, of course, you can support us via various ways. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037. Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Faraji Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
Hey, I'm Donnie Simpson.
What's up? I'm Lance Gross, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Let's go. In October, the NFL agreed to stop race norming in dementia testing. The revisions to the deal will allow former black NFL players who were previously denied to resubmit their claims, making them eligible for up to $600,000 in payments. Lacey Leonard, wife of former NFL player Lewis Leonard, has been very vocal about this issue. She and, of course, her husband appeared on our show before. She joins us now from Tempe, Arizona. Glad to have you on the show. This was a huge deal. I mean, y'all. I keep saying to folks all the time, in the history of America, black folks got to yell, holler, scream, kick just to make changes. And the reality is that's what took place in order to force the NFL to stop this racist practice that was denying benefits to black players.
Correct. Yes. It's unfortunate that in 2022, we were even having this conversation, especially with something in regards to football, which is predominantly Black. 80% of the guys on the team are Black. So just the idea that they were intentionally denying former Black players, benefits, especially in regards to concussion, it was just sad. It was sad that was even a discussion, and that we were even having to fight, for something that was essentially allocated for them. But the program was created at the time, apparently, to deny them of that. So.
The thing that that people just don't understand, you've got NBA's going on right now. Major League Baseball just ended their lockout, and NFL training camps open in July. We just had, of course, the Super Bowl in February. But the average person has absolutely no clue about how significant the health issues are for former players once their days are over. Eric Dickerson, Hall of Fame player, did an interview with the New York Times before the Super Bowl, talked about the Los Angeles Rams, about how he barely sleeps 3 or 4 hours a night. He says, there's no doubt in my mind I have CTE. But it's not just CTE. It's players, and it's their limbs, their knees, their back, their spine, their kidneys. I mean, we can go on and on and on. And people, it's just the other day, just yesterday, an Ohio State college lineman quit football for his mental health. You've had other NFL players, all pro NFL players, literally step away from during the season because of mental health. People don't quite get the hell that folks like you, the wives and the girlfriends, have to endure as well.
Roland, as I sit here and do this interview, I'm in a hospital. My husband's been in the hospital for the last 2 weeks. So it has been very difficult because you see somebody that you love who's strong. My husband is 6'5", literally in tears, in pain, literally cannot walk, literally cannot give himself a glass of water, with kidney failure, with excruciating pain in his body, not unsure what it is. Inflammation levels were extremely high. They're testing, running multiple tests. Just today alone, he had 3 CT scans. People have no idea what life is like for some of these retired NFL players. People have no idea how hard it is for the families who don't necessarily have adequate medical care or who don't have the millions of dollars in the bank to provide for around-the-clock care in the event that they need in-home service, or they need nursing staff, or they need extra long accommodating beds because most of these guys are too big. It literally took about 6 firefighters to lift my husband, to even get him out of the bed when I had to call 911 because he was in so much pain. His body was filled with so much fluid. I was scared he was going to get blood clots, and I can't physically lift him. It's heartbreaking, not knowing. I mean, his blood pressure is through the roof because he's in so much pain, and they can't figure out why he can't walk, why he can't move his arm, or why he has so much inflammation in his entire body. They've tested him for cancer, no cancer. They're doing all these tests. people just have no idea what our families are going through. And my prayer is that now that they have signed this new document, which took several months, then maybe our families will get justice. Maybe, these players who were wrongfully denied, like Lewis, will get the benefits that they really just need. I don't know. I guess I'm very emotional because, again, I've been in the hospital with my husband for the last 2 weeks. When these guys are playing, they give them Toradol shots and they send them back out there. They're not telling these players, when you taking those Toradol shots on the sidelines, they're killing your kidneys. You don't learn that until years later. And years later is too late because the NFL, unfortunately, only provides 5 years of health benefits for these guys. So after that 5 year, if you really don't have a, plan, or you don't have adequate resources, or you are in a tight situation, So I don't know. I just hope that something is done. It took several months to even get this form signed. So my prayer is that it doesn't take forever to get these families really the benefits that they deserve.
I want to open up to my panel with questions for you. Matt Manning is an attorney. Matt, I'll start with you. Your question for Lacey Leonard.
Well, first, Ms. Leonard, I sympathize with you and your husband, and I appreciate you sharing your story. My question is, has there been a push to not only have players like Leonard, or former players like your husband, be compensated, but to also be compensated with interest for the time between when the claims were initially submitted and now the judge's ruling? What is the push in that respect?
Honestly, I can only speak for us. We haven't received any information about any type of push or anything that they're going to do in addition. As far as it stands, my husband had received an approval and had it denied, reversed. So I can only hope that they'll go back and look through Lewis's case and look through his paperwork and look through his medical records. I mean, they speak for themselves. Do I think that he deserves interest? Absolutely. This is about providing a quality of life for these guys. The fact that we were wrongfully denied for something like race is, to me, ludicrous. We shouldn't even have to be fighting for something that was literally allocated. My husband did every single thing that they have told him to do. He's followed every rule and going to everything that they have said to do, we have done. But when the people that make the rules don't even follow the rules, you're just kind of at their mercy, honestly. And I'm hoping that Lewis's information, his claim is relooked and that he doesn't have to go through those grueling tests. People don't even realize the magnitude of the tests that they're making these players go through. The fact that, with this new ruling, players may potentially even have to go through it again is even sad. Anybody that was wrongfully denied should not have to go through that again. I think it's wrong. But no, to the question, no, we have not received any update or any information that those players like Lewis who were wrongfully denied will receive any more than what was initially entitled to them based off of their original approvals. So,
Crystal.
Yes, thank you for being here, and it's challenging to hear your story, but I do believe there's power in sharing it. My question is about the Players Association. Has the Players Association in its current state provided any support, meaning current players that are actively, playing in the NFL, and then former players? I would assume that your husband made friends and with teammates and past teammates, and maybe there are others who are going through similar or just other past challenges. The first question is the Players Association providing any type of support at all? And then two, is there any legal representation for your husband and other players who may be bringing forth a potential case just surrounding these wrongful denials?
Lacey answers that. What people need to realize is that, and this is something, again, that the average person has no understanding. the NFLPA represents current players.
Okay.
There actually is a battle. There's this battle because the current players are also paying into a system. So, and Lacey knows as well, you have these current players who are like, hey, I ain't trying to worry about the former players. I'm worried about myself. And there's a lot of animosity that exists between former players. And this is not just black. I mean, you had Mike Ditka and other former players who are like, oh, wait a minute, we made this game possible for you to make millions. And so when y'all are battling the NFL, y'all are also battling current players.
I have not received any outside help or anything like that from the NFLPA. Myself, I'm very familiar, of course, with the NFLPA. I did have someone actually just recently reach out to me and ask, how Lewis was doing, and I informed them of how Lewis was doing, but I haven't heard back from them. But I do think what Roland said, it is kind of like I don't want to say a disconnect, but it's like current players, they have their own agenda as well as it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind. I don't think it really affects the current players per se. So it's not something that I think that they are really as concerned about. And I can't say that I blame them because I don't recall ever being more aware of what the retired players were doing when Lewis was playing, I wish that there was a way that gap was more bridged, because essentially the advocacy that I'm doing now is to help the younger guys. This will help them. This will help you guys, because there is going to be an end date, and when that happens, you want to make sure that you're at least, fairly accommodated. And it's just unfortunate that we don't really have that. I'm hoping, though, that there's a way that, I can connect with the NFLPA and that we can, I own a behavioral health facility and really just wanted to share the resources and be a tool for a lot of these families that's dealing with these mental health issues and dealing with these, physical things that these players are going through, but to me, I don't feel like it's as connected as it should be. I don't feel like the resources are available. It's just, it is what it is at this point. But maybe in the future there will be something more available to these retired players. And I don't know.
Michael.
Well, Lacey, thanks for coming on today and sharing this with us. This is really important. The question that I had is, I was wondering, what has been the response from Roger Goodell, league commissioner, any of the NFL team owners, things like this, when it comes to the debilitating lifelong injuries many of these former players suffer, and they're disproportionately African-American. I know you've had the lawsuit from Brian Flores. That's something separate, but Roger Goodell spoke about that and right before the Super Bowl. But I hear very little about them addressing these lifelong debilitating injuries that players suffer from.
Honestly, I haven't heard anything regarding what these owners are thinking. I don't want to speak. No owner has called me. No owner has said, hey, Lacey, look, I don't agree with what's going on. And not to say that they do agree with what's going on, but I think they should be more vocal.
Yes.
If I own a company or a business, and there is something not reflective of my mission and my values, then I'm going to speak up on that. But again, I also think for them, it's like out of sight, out of mind. This doesn't affect their day-to-day. They have no idea that there's so many widows of the NFL. They have no idea that these women and these men and these children, this affects my children. I've been at a hospital for the last 2 weeks. I'm having to send my kids, in Uber rides to get home and to, sending them dinner because I'm here at the hospital. Like, this affects the entire family. And I just think that they don't realize that. The NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball, everybody offers lifetime medical, but the NFL. And why is the NFL a nonprofit? You guys have more than enough money to take care of your players.
$15 billion a year.
No one is trying to get rich. We just need adequate care. That should be a no-brainer. These men should get lifetime medical when they're done. How is it that they contribute to $1 billion industry and they're not offered lifetime medical? I don't know. I've cried so much in the last 2 weeks because I'm so mad. It's not fair. And Lewis still don't say nothing bad about the NFL. He tells me to calm down because I get so angry. My husband's not even 40. And I don't know what the next 10 years looks like. I don't know what the next 15 or 20 years look like for him. And that scares me. But I tell you what, Roland, I'm going to continue to advocate. I'm going to continue to fight. I'm going to continue to speak up until justice is served. So that's kind of where I'm at. They will continue to see me until Lewis receives what he deserves. And all the other families that were wrongfully denied, I will be their voice because these players don't deserve this. These families, these children, they don't deserve this. They don't.
Lacey, Leonard, we appreciate it. You certainly, you and your husband are always welcome on the show. It's all about getting the word out, sharing these stories and perspectives, and we'll certainly be praying for you. And, just let your husband know that we'll put these virtual alpha healing hands on him.
Oh, Lord Jesus. Oh, I wish he could sit here and laugh. That'd put a smile. I'm going to tell him what you said when I go back into his room.
Yes. So when you touch him, you say, Roland said he's putting these virtual alpha healing hands on that Omega. And so just let him know how we do it. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys so much.
All right, Lacey. I appreciate it. Thank you so very much. All right, folks. Look, she's having a tough time. Y'all remember when he was on? Right. They were both wearing their Greek stuff. He was an Omega, so I had to just let him know. Mm-hmm. You know, always gotta let them know how it is. All right, y'all. Gotta go to break. We come back. We should be thankful that Ryan Coogler is still with us, folks. That 911 phone call and the video. Seriously, you see the video? Ryan Coogler could have been shot and killed trying to withdraw $12,000 of his own money out of his bank account. We'll show you and discuss next right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
I was in the telephone booth on 63rd and 3rd Avenue. Brought my coins in, and Dial the number. Mrs. Parks, this is Richard Roundtree. Oh, yeah, yes. Well, you know, it looks like you got the role. I didn't know whether I'll go blind. Oh, really? Okay, well, wait. You can't tell anyone. Can I tell my parents? And I'm walking around town, and my fellow actors and models are saying, hey, you know what? Tree, I think I might have gotten that role. You hear this 2 or 3 different times.
Right. Like, did he
well, wait a minute. Was I dreaming that? Or then Gordon calls me up. I call Gordon, and he says, we're having the press announcing you are the Shaft. I get in the limo, when I pull up beside it, oh, Lord. What we used to call, I'm shitting in high cotton.
Yes, in high cotton, yes.
I get out, and all the press is there, and actors, and I walk in, and Gordon announces, yes, this is Richard Roundtree, and he's gonna play the character Shaft. Magic.
All right, folks, many of you saw, we talked about earlier this week, the story that what happened to Ryan Coogler at a Bank of America in Atlanta in January. He goes to the bank. He's trying to withdraw $12,000 of his own money out of his account, hands the teller a note. She thinks he robbing the joint. She goes to the manager, they call the cops. So first I want to do this here. I want to first play the 911 recording so y'all can listen to what the teller, what they actually said when they call the cops. Watch this.
Customer passed me a note, and so I just told my manager I didn't feel comfortable. So he told me to call police while he, I guess, stalled for
What's on the note, ma'am?
It just says I want to withdraw $12,000. Just be discreet.
Is this an actual customer, or are they trying to rob the bank?
They had a debit card, and he inserted it. He gave me a California ID, but I was like, okay. How do you want the cash back? And he's like, just look at the note.
And he had no weapons, correct?
Not that I know of. He just has on black sunshades and a black hat.
Is he a black male, white male?
He's a black male. And every time I ask him like a question, he's like, look at the note.
So, okay.
But he inserted his debit card, and then I asked for his ID. He handed me his ID as a California ID. But I didn't look at his name because I'm just like so shook up. Like, I don't know what he's trying to do. So I just told him, give me one moment. You know, I have to get my manager.
Okay, so none of his information was even verified. Okay. He might just want to be discreet, but I have police en route.
Yeah, I mean, he might. It just seemed weird.
Okay, I'm sorry. Look, this is a black woman who's calling. Y'all, she tells the cops, yo, he gave me this note. I want to withdraw $12,000. Be discreet. Y'all, here's the letter. Here's the notice. This is what Ryan Coogler, y'all. This is what Ryan Coogler gave to her. I would like to withdraw $12,000 from my checking account. How she skipped that part and called the cops? Oh, I felt uncomfortable. I didn't know. He handed me a note. He had shades on. Damn, I would like to withdraw $12,000 cash from my checking account. Y'all, roll a video. Watch what happens when the cops roll up on Ryan in the bank.
Hey, sir. Hey, man. Do me a favor, man. Come this way. Put your hand behind your back.
No, got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. Is there any reason y'all doing this, bro?
Give me 1 second. Hold on. Is that him with the green flag?
No, sir. Hey, what?
204, one minute, okay.
Fellas, I really should do it. I mean,
What's going on, my man?
trying to throw money on my own.
You said what? Yeah, what's up? This your phone?
It is, sir.
Good job, guys.
Who you wearing under this, brother?
I got a black t-shirt on.
It's gonna be a green hoodie with black t-shirt, black skull cap, black shirt.
No.
Wait, what?
Listen to what he's saying. Have you
ever? No, I am listening.
Okay. Have you ever considered speaking to them about what it is you're trying to do prior to doing?
So can I explain something to you, bro? I went to CVS out here the other day to get a vaccine. I came outside and smelled like smoke in the parking lot. You know what I'm saying? I was getting a vaccine.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to fuck around out here, bro. Like, I'm not saying out loud how much money I'm taking up. That's why I'm writing it down.
I'm not talking about speaking to somebody like that. I'm saying, hey, can I speak to a manager in an office somewhere? Have you ever considered doing something like that?
I'm gonna consider it now that y'all fucking drew guns on me. I was trying to take money out. But up to this point, at every Bank of America I ever gone to in my entire fucking life, just never happened.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying?
I understand.
So y'all explaining y'all perspective, right? Yeah. Y'all the ones with guns and vests. You know what I'm saying? What's my perspective? What's my perspective?
I know.
At the bank, she never said it was a fucking problem, bro. Yeah. I said, hey, is that gonna be okay with you? She said, yeah. I put my own card in, put my own pin in. She asked to see my ID. I gave it to her. Yeah. And she goes in the back, and I'm waiting for the and then the people keep coming on. Hey, they taking care of you. They taking care of you. Everything's, it's taking a little while. Next thing I hear fucking Glocks. Yeah. I hear Glocks getting pulled out. That's what I hear.
You're a Glock.
I hear Glocks getting pulled out from unholstering. Hey, sir, can I talk to you for a minute? You know what I'm saying? So you see my perspective?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean.
How many officers you got on this?
It's not, bro.
Crystal, the man is at the bank chilling, and next thing he hears is click, click. And if y'all roll a video, again, I'm gonna talk over it. Roll the bank inside the bank. Right? If Ryan Coogler makes one wrong move, Ryan Coogler is shot. Y'all, watch what happens here. Watch, he literally, whoa, and he immediately goes here, play it.
Hey, sir. Do me a favor, man. Come this way. Put your hand behind your back.
Stop. Sir, come this way. Cop standing behind Ryan pulls his gun out. At no point, Ryan is not a threat, shows no weapon. Why is the cop unholstering his weapon?
It's an excessive use of force. That's clearly what this is. And I think, we've seen this policing and justice, scenarios with Black men across this country happen where it did not end, with life, with someone living and being able to tell their side of the story, being able to tell their perspective. And really, we don't know every single thing because, the full case hasn't been, discovered yet, but it really does appear that the first, discrepancy began with the bank teller and then with her manager or her manager, if it was a male or not. But really what we're seeing, for them to send in 2 armed officers and multiple police officers with guns drawn, which is what he stated, it's excessive. And this is what we continue to see with Black folks being policed in this country, is an excessive use of force. We're not innocent until proven guilty. We're presumed to be guilty, which is why we see police officers draw guns, particularly on Black men, and then you're forcing a person to react in a situation where they may be scared or have anxiety or anything. And you're right, one wrong move could mean the life or death of that particular individual. And so we should give every single Black man, every single Black citizen in this country the same grace that we gave Dylan Roof when he went into Charleston and shot up 9 people after a church service or during a Bible study. And so those are the kind of things that I want to see happen to Black people and to Black men in this country. Be given the same opportunity of presuming innocence before you're pulled, before a gun is pulled out on you, and before 5 or 6 police officers and cars surround you.
Matt, look, I don't give a damn if the teller is Black. Her trifling ass could have got that man killed because she freaked out. And frankly, she saw a Black man asking for 12 grand and she immediately thought he's a robber.
Yep. And
I don't know if the manager's white or Black, but that's a dumbass manager as well. Because if I was a manager, I would have said, can you let me see the note? And I probably would have said, hey, fool, it says withdraw cash out of my account. Did you put a PIN number in? Yeah. Did he show his license? Yeah. Did his license match the information on the screen? Yeah. What your dumb ass coming to my office for? No, they call a cop and that man could have got shot.
She way overreacted. Everybody involved made huge errors that imperiled his life, and I hope he sues Bank of America and gets a significant settlement, because if you bank at Bank of America, you know they have you put in your debit card and a PIN. He provided a driver's license. All she had to do was ask him to remove his sunglasses and open his mask. And she could see that's the same person that correlates to the driver's license, that correlates to the information on the screen. And if you notice, what did the 911 dispatcher say? She said, so wait, you didn't verify his information, but she still sent 2 cops. Why doesn't she say, just go get your manager and verify his information? I don't understand why the dispatcher even sent police officers to respond to this. And beyond that, why the police officer didn't just say, hey, man, we got a call. Understand you're wearing sunglasses and a mask. It's a pandemic. Just show us that you're the same person on the driver's license. He shouldn't have to do that after he's already followed Bank of America's policies to, bring up his account. But going to their guns is just absurd. It's absurd. And he shouldn't have to be outside explaining himself, particularly when he's as high profile as he is. He did what any person would do wanting to withdraw a substantial sum of money.
What I'm trying to understand is, where does it state in police procedures, Michael, that you get called and when you arrive, you have there is no information. There is zero information that says that this man is a threat. So why when he turns around, is the cop behind him pulling his gun out of his holster?
Right. Yeah, I think that's an overreaction there. So I talked about this story last night on the African History Network show, Roland. And, luckily, a police officer like Derek Chauvin didn't show up, because this really could have gone the wrong direction quickly. So there's a couple things here. Number one, if people look at the article from the New York Times on this, it appears that Ryan Coogler has an alert on his bank account that gives a alert notification that somebody tries to withdraw more than $10,000. And what appears that happened is that when the alert went off, it freaked the teller out. She immediately went to her manager and advised her manager that somebody was trying to rob the bank.
But wait. Here's the problem. The alert is meant to make sure that if somebody is withdrawing more than 10 grand, you check.
I'm coming to that, Roland. I'm coming to that. But the problem is that she freaked out and she didn't verify his ID with his name on it with the name of the account, and he also gave her his debit card.
Fire her ass. Fire her.
So it's like, you know, I've never managed a bank before. I managed a retail management a retail management store, and there's a process that you have to go through to verify certain things, and you got to go through that process before you call the police.
Fire her. I don't care if she black. Fire her. If you too dumb, you can't read a note, and then you can't check an ID, and you can't figure it out, you should not be. If you that scared, take your ass and go and work somewhere else in the bank, go on in the back office. You should not be dealing with people again. But you see the video, the man could have been shot. This could have gone a different way. And what people also don't realize, the cops did not just cuff Ryan, they also cuffed his two boys who were outside waiting on him. And I'm saying all that happened, they were all in the police car, and that's foul. It's foul, and I'm sorry. Her ass need to be fired. I'm glad I ain't got no Bank of America bank account, but I can guarantee you this here, I'm gonna find out what the hell that bank is. I'll be damned if I'm gonna get some money out the ATM at that Bank of America. If you got a teller and a manager who's that weak to call the cops in that situation. All right, y'all, it's time for Education Matters. All right, y'all. Every Friday, of course, we have our Education Matters segment. And so today we're talking about how do we keep sisters, folks, mainly sisters, but also brothers as well, focused and involved and interested in STEM. Now, look, I'm with folks, science, technology. I got the technology part, but the science and the engineering and the math part, yeah, it could bore the hell out of you. So, Raven, the Science Maven joins us right now. So you make this thing interesting. Lord, please tell me how, because I'm saying when I was in school, I was like, man, woo, I wish I was somewhere else.
Yes, I mean, you know, I find science so interesting because there are questions everywhere, and you can use science to answer them. And I think that's exciting.
Okay, you think it's exciting. Okay, but how do you make it exciting? If you're teaching it, how do you make someone interested where they say, you know what, man, I really want to hear this thing, get involved in this thing?
Well, you know, everybody's not the same. And I think that the best approach to have when you're teaching is to get to know your student and be culturally relevant. And so when I am teaching science to a student, I think about their culture, I think about their neighborhoods, what is relevant and important to them in their lives. So I've taught in inner city schools in Buffalo, New York, and I found that when I use rap music to tie in science concepts in the classroom and in my lessons, the students gravitate towards that. And they get inspired to write their own science music. And so now then we're applying our knowledge to music and making our own thing, and we're learning. And I think it takes a lot of patience to do that, but what you get is a tailor-made lesson and opportunity for a student to be engaged with science. It's all about that.
When you were teaching, but did you also move it out of the classroom into a natural setting? Because to me, that also sort of changes it up. I remember going to an arboretum when I was in elementary school, and it changed my view. We were talking about plants and different things on those lines. I mean, that was different because you were literally, I mean, you're in nature, you experience it, as opposed to sitting in a doggone classroom looking at a picture in a book.
Yes, I mean, like when I've taught lessons that involve math, instead of having students with a paper and pencil, I took them outside and we did math equations on the sidewalk with chalk. And they just enjoy being out of their seats and getting in nature and saying, okay, you know, I don't have to crunch numbers at a desk. I can do it in a park, you know, or I can do it wherever. Yeah, students, I think it's important to get people out the classroom and expand their minds about learning.
Questions from our panel. We got a couple of minutes. Let's see. Matt, Crystal, Michael, which one of y'all are probably better at science? You know what? If I had to bet, I'd probably say.
Good at science.
Yeah, right. I'd probably say Crystal.
I was good at science.
Crystal, were you good at science?
I don't know that I was good at science.
Okay, no, you weren't. You weren't. See, right there, right there. If you start off with, I don't know, I wasn't good, right there. Okay, Michael, you start first, real quick. What's your question for Raven, the Science Maven?
All right, Dr. Raven, I was on your YouTube channel today. You got skills. I saw your rap video. Explain to people what a molecular biologist is and talk about your partnership with Olay.
Sure. So a molecular biologist is someone who studies molecules and how they generate life functions. And so we've heard of molecules, you know, you can think of adrenaline is a molecule in our body, melanin, right? Insulin. Right. These are all things that we've heard of. Those are molecules. And so I partner with Olay because they find my STEM story inspiring, and they have a goal to double the amount of women in STEM and triple the amount of women of color in STEM by 2030. And so through sharing my story of being my authentic self in STEM and sharing my enthusiasm and excitement for science and encouraging other professionals to do the same, whether they're in STEM careers or not, we're hoping to contribute to that effort to increase number of women of color in STEM.
Crystal, we got about 30 seconds before Doc has to go. Crystal, what's your question for Raven, the Science Maven?
Yes, Dr. Raven. I just wanted to know, are you taking your, you know, the things that you're doing, you should take this on tour and, you know, share this across the country. And I just wanted to know, how are you educating not only the students that you're, you know, have influence over immediately, but nationwide?
That is a really great idea, and that's something that I would like to explore. I just finished my doctorate, so now I'm Dr. Raven, the Science Maven. And now that I'm finished with grad school, I'm thinking, what's next, you know? And I think that it would be really fun to do a tour, especially since I do create music, but also that would give students an opportunity to meet me in person and be hands-on. And I think that, you know, we'd really be able to create something special when we're together in a room, getting excited about science and making music, dancing. Like, you know, I think it would definitely be something for the culture, for us. And I think, you know, if anybody's watching this who has a school that they think I should come to, let me know. But I think that's a wonderful idea. Thank you for bringing that to my attention.
How can folks reach you? How can folks reach you? Raven?
Yes, are you here?
Yeah, I said, how can folks reach you?
Oh, you can reach me. If you Google Raven the Science Maven, all of my social medias pop up. I am on Instagram as Raven the Science Maven, on Twitter at Raven Sci Maven, Facebook at Raven the Science Maven, and I'm even on TikTok at Science Maven, and of course on YouTube as Dr. Raven, the Science Maven.
And
thanks.
You mentioned all that, and you didn't mention your own website.
Yes. My website is scimaven.com.
So, Raven, let me help you out when it comes to branding. Always start with your own website. Start with that first, and then you mention all that social media stuff, because you want folks to go to your website. That's your domain first. So start there. Always start with your website.
Yeah, sometimes I just tell people, ask Siri, because she's quick to tell.
No. Siri ain't here in the studio. Everybody watching.
I'm joking.
But you gotta, you gonna brand. You gotta brand yourself first versus the social media, because they come to you first if they want you to speak. Trust me.
Yes.
See.
Thank you, Roland. That's a really great tip.
I know by speaking money. Trust me. Raven, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Folks, last item here, civil rights leader, an alpha man. Sorry, Michael. Ambassador Andrew Young, he drew hundreds of people to Atlanta Centennial Olympic Park for a peace walk organized for his 90th birthday today. Carol, call him. The former congressman, the United Nations ambassador, Atlanta mayor, told the crowd he wanted a quiet, prayerful march for peace. Young was instrumental in bringing the Summer Olympics to Atlanta in 1996, and Centennial Park is a legacy of those games. The civil rights pioneer was also honored with a statue at another Atlanta park. Young is among, go ahead and show it, y'all. Young is among the last surviving members of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s Inner Circle. He turns 90 on Saturday and is hosting multiple events to continue his long fight for equity and inclusion. And so, go ahead and play it.
Spiritual commitment from our citizens, both black and white.
The ultimate pathway to creating peace, which leads us to justice and a beloved community, is through nonviolence.
All right, folks, and this is the final story. The chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, Congresswoman Joyce Beatty of Ohio and Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence of Michigan, they have sent a letter to the IRS demanding an investigation into the tax-exempt status of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. The organization is responsible for the Golden Globes Awards. The Congresswomen believe the HFPA made illegal financial gains and paid themselves from the organization. HFPA has come under fire for lack of diversity on its board and boycotted influential media professionals. We've been involved with them with the National Association of Black Journalists, talking about the issues of lack of any black voting members. They've announced a series of changes, but many believe they have not made enough changes to what has been happening in their organization. So we'll be following that as well. Folks, on Monday's show, we're going to talk about the undercount of the U.S. Census. That's a huge, huge issue. 18.8 million folks were undercounted, so we'll be sure to cover that on Monday also, folks. Right after we end this show, we'll be airing part 2 of our docuseries, 1619-2019, the Year of Return. It is amazing, amazing special. You don't want to miss it. Let me think. So that's going to be. So once we end the show, we're going to start that live stream. You can check it out. And don't forget, beginning on Wednesday, Rolling with Roland. You saw the promo there. Richard Roundtree, the original Shaft. Y'all, we had an absolutely fascinating conversations. A lot you don't know about Richard, you will learn. And we really went deep, talking about his family, talking about his children, and of course, his legacy. Let me thank, of course, all the folks joining us today. Matt, thank you so very much for being with us. Also, first timer, I hope we didn't haze you too much. Crystal, your first time on the show, and so we haze you just a little bit. And then Michael as well. Thank you so very much. So, folks, thanks a bunch. I'll see y'all next week. Again, folks, thank you so many of the folks who have been joining us, Bring the Funk Fan Club. You see the names that are scrolling right now. These are all the people who've contributed to us since we launched 3.5 years ago. If you want to be a part of what we do, you can also join us. Of course, Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. And then Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com, Roland@RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And of course, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037. Folks, that is it. I will see you on Monday. First of all, happy belated birthday to my sister, Zena Martin. She turns, how old is your mama? She 44? Yeah, your mama 44. I don't care if she don't want her age being told. I'm going to tell her damn age anyway. She 44. So Zena, happy belated birthday. Folks, I'll see y'all on Monday. This weekend, we'll also be airing the Black Women's Roundtable. Their conference is going on. We've been covering it since Wednesday. They have events taking place on Saturday and Sunday. So tune in on the Black Star Network. We'll be live streaming more of their events as well. So it's always something we got going on. That's why we have this platform. That's why we have this app, for you to be able to see all of these different events, all the different things going on. There's a whole lot that we got going. I gotta go. Time to go. I gotta go work on my book. We're editing it this weekend. White Fear drops in September. I told y'all we got some stuff popping. I'm gonna see y'all on Monday. Oh, I thought I was finished. Auburn, all you Auburn fans. #1 in the SEC. My Aggies beat y'all. So Charles Barkley, yeah, we handle that business. And also Key Bennett in Alabama. #War Eagle down. So shout out to Texas A&M men's basketball team now in the semifinals of the SEC tournament, beating Auburn today. Fantastic game. Gig 'em. Holla! play the, when that finishes.
Roundtree. Oh, yeah, yes. Well, you know, it looks like you got the role. I didn't know whether I'll go blind. Oh, really? Okay, well, wait. You can't tell anyone. Can I tell my parents? And I'm walking around town, and my fellow actors and models are saying, hey, you know what? Tree, I think I might have gotten that role. You hear this 2 or 3 different times.
Right. Like, did he
well, wait a minute. Was I dreaming that? Or then Gordon calls me up. I call Gordon, and he says, we're having the press announcing you are the Shaft. I get in the limo. When I pull up and saw this, oh, Lord. What we used to call, I'm shitting in high cotton.
Yes, in high cotton, yes.
I get out, and all the press is there, and the actors, and I walk in, and Gordon announces, yes, this is Richard Roundtree, and he's going to play the character Shaft. Oh, magic.